This is all going to take to resolve itself. You know, how long is it going to take before the winds stop so that the people that are going to repair the power can actually go do that? It's going to take a long time. I mean, this is just the first day of days of bad weather. And it may take a good part of this week to the middle of next week, at least, before the wind starts to calm down, and it only starts at that point in some parts of the southeast. It's just daunting to think about. Okay, here's the way the hurricane looks right now. It's got a pretty decent shape to it. I mean, it doesn't look all dented. It doesn't look like there's a lot of dry air involved in it. It doesn't look like it did when it was 185 miles an hour, but still, it looks like an efficient tropical machine. So when it gets out here clear of the Cuban coast there, it will have an opportunity, we think, to intensify. Another thing it's got going for it is you see these clouds going like this here? That's actually, in this case, efficient. It's taking air out of the top of the hurricane and kind of taking it away. So that helps the air come in the bottom of the hurricane. Also, notice what that wind there does when you take the circulation coming around the hurricane like this. Notice all these enhanced thunderstorms, those bright colors there. That's where we're getting the tornadoes there on the southern part of the peninsula, and that's going to move north as the hurricane moves north. So the tornado watch right now is from Lake Okeechobee south, including the Keys here, and they'll move really fast. There'll just be a really strong gust of wind, more most likely than a classic tornado, but it is a danger that's already beginning across South Florida. Now here's the super close-up look, and we see a couple things here. One is you see that the eye was involved with the Cuban mainland there, and now it's clearly moved off as forecast, and the thinking is it's going to turn up toward the Keys here as we go through the night tonight and into tomorrow. Now we can look at the radar. This uses the Cuban radar data along with U.S. radar data, and there you can see the track. Look at it right along, maybe it made a landfall right there in Cuba temporarily, and kind of up and down, but also look here. Look at the inner eye right there, and look what's happening around it. That was the eye that's been around for the last day or two, day and a half, and then here's the one around it that's forming now. So once again, it's going through an eye wall replacement cycle. What does that mean? That means it's weakening in terms of its peak wind, but it's kind of breathing and it's expanding. And what will happen is this inner eye will just go away completely. That eye will take over and it will contract as the storm moves up toward the Keys. And in that process, the peak winds will get stronger again. Here's where the winds are now. Look at Marathon here, gusting to 61 miles an hour, Key West 48. And when you get farther away from the storm, you see these bands of yellows. Every time one of those bands comes, the wind gets stronger. So that's the kind of the way to think about it. So sometimes in those you have very, very strong cells, but generally that's the way. It's kind of a band, and then in between you can actually get lower winds. So just because we don't see a lot in Miami, it was really blowing in Miami a little while ago, so it just kind of works that way. The other thing this is an interesting thing to look at because to give you an idea, this is the wave forecast. This isn't waves crashing on the beach. This is waves offshore, and you can see that this afternoon, the waves are kind of peaking on the East Coast because you have this big onshore push there. Well, look at the huge waves that are 30 feet off of Miami. That tells you how much energy there is in the water tomorrow morning coming at the southeast Florida coast. Many more winds on the East Coast, or waves on the East Coast, than the West Coast. Talk more about that coming up. All right, that's this hour here on the Weather Channel. Our
temperature is getting better organized and will intensify as it approaches Florida. The core will move across the Keys early tomorrow morning and go across our state on Sunday. It will impact northwest Florida on Monday. The Keys will see direct impact of the eye of the storm. There will be 18 to 15 inches of rain across the state and up to 25 inches in the Keys. Tornadoes are possible in South Florida this evening and Central Florida tomorrow. Hurricane conditions will be felt across the West Coast beginning Sunday morning. But tropical storm conditions will be felt across the warning area. Millions of Floridians will begin seeing impacts with life-threatening winds tonight. This is a serious threat of significant. There is a serious threat of significant storm surge along the entire west coast of Florida, and this has increased to 15 feet of impact above ground level in southwest Florida. Tampa will see a surge of 5 to 8 feet. The Big Bend area will see a surge of 3 to 6 feet. We'll also see an increase in flooding of rivers throughout the peninsula. This is clearly a life-threatening situation. Remember, in Southwest Florida, the storm surge comes after the strongest winds. Do not think the storm is over when the wind slows down. Local officials will let you know when it is safe. The storm surge will rush in and it could kill you. When it happens, the water just rushes in and rushes out. With the storm's latest track, families in the Panhandle need to be on high alert for severe weather, including tropical storm and hurricane-force winds. Here in Tallahassee, it is likely we will experience hurricane-force winds, and families must start preparing now. We saw what Hurricane Irma did to this community last year, and we could see similar or more severe wind threats from Irma. If you have been ordered to evacuate, you need to leave now. This is your last chance to make a good decision. Evacuations are in place in areas across the state. More than 6.5 million Floridians have been ordered to evacuate. Do not put yourself or your family's life at risk. Now is the time to do the right thing for your family. School buses are aiding in evacuations. Please take advantage of this service. If you need to leave and are unable to do so for any reason, call 1-800-342-3557 and we will do everything we can to get you out. Protecting life is our absolute top priority. No resource or expense will be spared to protect families. I urge everyone to check on their neighbors, their family, and their friends. If you know someone who is not evacuating and should, please contact them and make sure they have a plan to get out now. We have been very aggressive in our preparation for this storm, and now it's upon us. Every Floridian should take this seriously and be aggressive to protect their family. Possessions can be replaced. Your life, your family cannot be replaced. Shelters. We have been working around the clock with counties to ensure there are enough shelters. Currently, there are more than 385 shelters open across every county in the path of the storm, and more are opening tonight. More than 70,000 Floridians have taken shelter, and there is still room for more. If you have a building and emergency officials ask you to open a shelter, please comply. This is so important to families seeking safety. Everyone in Florida needs to find a safe place to go. Traffic. Evacuation routes are moving, and we have implemented emergency shoulder use on I-4 from 50th Street in Tampa to east of State Road 429 in Orlando. Our 1,700 state troopers remain on the road to assist in evacuations and traffic. They will remain on our roads until it is unsafe. Check real-time traffic information and evacuation routes at fl511.com. We are still aggressively working to keep gas stations open and filled along active evacuation routes. I waived Florida's motor fuel import tax for 5 days to help bring more fuel to our state for storm response and recovery. This will make our efforts to bring in fuel from neighboring states after the storm easier. We absolutely know fuel is important, and we are doing and voting every state resource we can to address this problem to ensure we have fuel immediately we want it for everybody, but we want it immediately for first responders and rescue efforts. Every single Florida Guardsman that can be called up has already been deployed to prepare and respond to this storm. We have so many members of our law enforcement community that are putting their lives at risk to help Floridians get to a safe place. And they will not stop until it's no longer safe. We cannot thank them enough. Utilities. Right now, more than 76,000 people are without power. It's going to get worse. Utility providers have actively pre-positioned resources throughout the state and in neighboring states. We know how important power is. We will aggressively work with our utilities to make sure it gets back on. Regarding recovery, we have search and rescue staged and ready once the storm passes and it is safe for first responders. I met with the Coast Guard Admiral today, and they are here and have asked us to help in this process. The storm has continued to change rapidly, but we have food and water pre-positioned to be dispersed to impacted areas. We will do all we can to get this out quickly. The Department of Transportation, National Guard, and Fish and Wildlife will work as fast as they can to clear roads so we can get food and water to shelters in impacted areas. We also have guardsmen from other states ready to come in and help with this. But disaster response takes time. We will go as fast as we can once the weather is safe. We're also working with FEMA on temporary housing solutions for displaced residents. I've been talking to President Trump pretty much every day, other members of the White House, and other members of the cabinet. They're absolutely committed to provide whatever resource they can to help us live through this storm and in our recovery efforts. I want to be clear, we are under a state of emergency. Those who perform vital services, including healthcare staff, we need you to be there to help your community. You're answering the call now that we need nurses, and we have nearly more than 2,500 who have already responded. Those who respond to this need are heroes to our neighbors with special needs, and we are so grateful to them. But we can still use more. Florida needs volunteer nurses to help at our special needs shelters. If you're a nurse, please email helpfl@flhealth.gov. You can still also email BPRCHD preparedness@flhealth.gov. So many people across the country and across the world have called to offer their prayers and support. I want to thank the governors of the other states that provided every resource we've asked for. I know the entire country is with us. We have our country's best first responders ready to help us, and Florida, we will get through this. This week, Floridians have demonstrated to the world that we know what it means to get prepared. Neighbors are helping neighbors, and strangers united as Floridians have come together to pull through this devastating storm. Let's get together and pull through this. We will come back even stronger. You can follow my Twitter account at FLGovScott for this life-saving messaging and updates in English and Spanish. Hurricane Irma ya ha estado impactando nuestro estado. Este huracán es muy peligroso. Acuérdense que la vida de usted y su familia es lo más importante. Por favor, tengan cuidado. Cada familia ya debe de estar en un sitio seguro. Para más información, por favor, llamen a 1-800-34-23557. También visitan mi cuenta de Twitter a FLGovScott para más información en inglés y español de Huracán Irma. Mi prioridad es que todos, turistas, familias, todos en la Florida estén seguros.
You've been listening to Governor Rick Scott with the latest update on Hurricane Irma. He has told us and everybody else out there that Florida is about as prepared as they can get. More gas is coming in. He's waived the import gas tax. He's got National Guard in place. National Guard potentially can come in from other states. We've got hundreds of power crews in from other states too. So they are prepared for this. And as he said, Florida will come back even stronger. We've got a long way to go. I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel, and we are in Miami. We are following the storms as they come off the Atlantic. Now, we're in a break right now. You can see that on the radar. We don't have anything imminent. Most of the squally weather is down to our south. That's associated directly with Hurricane Irma, and it will roll in here tonight, and tomorrow will be the worst of the weather for the state, for most of the state. But then as you get in the northern part of the state, north of Interstate 4, you're going to be dealing with this into the early hours and even midday on Monday. Brian Norcross has the latest on the timing, and Brian will have another update from the National Hurricane Center in about 90 minutes. We'll see if they increase the wind speed. But the bottom line, even if it doesn't get back up to a 4, it's a very strong 3, a very dangerous hurricane with all the issues: severe weather, storm surge, inland flooding, and by far the impact that will affect millions in Florida and parts of the southeast are the winds that will be catastrophic and destructive, especially on the west coast of Florida.